This is the greatest war of all time. The Vietnam War. Oh, fucking baby. That was like trying to play a game of Twister in a goddamn minefield. Imagine two roided up gorillas duking it out on a slip and slide covered in napalm with a soundtrack of Creedence Clearwater Revival cranked up to 11. We're talking guerrilla warfare, napalm raining down like a diarrhea tsunami, and a bunch of poor bastards playing hide and seek in the jungle, like an R-rated version of Dora the Explorer gone horribly wrong.
But guys, like, there were so many wild things happening during that war. Did you know there was, like, a secret CIA airline and thingy doing all kinds of bad stuff? And oh my god, there are still unexploded bombs there, which is super scary. I mean, I know I'm a bombshell, but that's taking it too far, right?
You're right, Alinity. This clusterfuck of a conflict had more plot twists than a soap opera written by a coked-up Stephen King. So strap on your history helmets, because we're diving into the swampy cesspool of human fuckery known as the Vietnam War. Our tale begins in the early 1950s, when the world was still reeling from the ass-blasting of World War II. The Cold War was just getting spicy, and the atmosphere was tenser than the elastic of a sumo wrestler's G-string. Enter Vietnam, a small Southeast Asian country that had just spanked France's colonial cheeks out of the blocks. But like a bad case of explosive diarrhea, the French exit left behind a massive stinky dump. Vietnam was cut into two conflicting sides, with the commie North and the anti-commie South. Now, the US, being the overzealous, titty-twisting big brother they are, saw this as a prime opportunity to shove their throbbing freedom boner into Vietnam's unsuspecting ass. Their fear was that if the commies took over Vietnam, it'd be like a fucked up game of dominoes, with communism spreading through Asia like a bad case of herpes. So Uncle Sam rolled up his sleeves, cracked open a cold can of democracy, and got ready to throw down in the name of freedom and bald eagles.
Oh my god, guys. It was like the US went all mamacita mode on Vietnam, thinking they could just dance in there and kick some commie butts, you know? But they seriously underestimated how tough this fight would be. It was like, vamos amigos, let's go fight some commies. But really, they had no idea what they were getting themselves into. Like, seriously?
The U.S. started pumping cash and military advisors into South Vietnam like they were inflating a bouncy castle of doom. Meanwhile, the North got some commie buddies like the Soviet Union and China to back them up. It was a shit show of epic proportions, with Vietnam getting fucked from both sides. But things went from zero to fucked real quick in 1964, when the Gulf of Tonkin incident popped off. The U.S. said they got a little slap and tickle from some North Vietnamese boats, and they used that as an excuse to go balls deep in the conflict.
Like, seriously, guys, the U.S. started sending even more soldiers and equipment to Vietnam, thinking they could just flex their muscles and win this thing. But, like, the Vietnamese people were super determined and knew their land way better than the Americans, so it was like trying to beat a boss level in a video game you've never played before. It was just a total disaster, honestly.
This war was like wrestling with a lubed-up pig on skates. The Viet Cong, the North's sneaky bush warriors, would appear out of nowhere and disappear into the jungle like a fart in the wind. The U.S. had all the fancy-ass gadgets and firepower, but it didn't mean squat when you're fighting an enemy that's more elusive than Bigfoot wearing an invisibility cloak.
And like, oh my god, the Americans were so desperate to win this war, you guys. They dropped so many bombs on Vietnam, like more than they did in the entire World War II. That's insane, right? They even used some horrible chemicals that hurt the plants and the people. Kind of like that one time I gave my cat some vodka. I'm sorry, okay? It was a huge oopsie, and it made everything worse. But you know what? They still couldn't win the war, no matter how hard they tried. It was like a total fail, you guys. And as time went by, people in the US were like, why are we even here? This is not cool, guys. So they started to protest and stuff, and it was super tense. It's like trying to squeeze into a pair of skinny jeans after a huge Thanksgiving feast, right?
At last, in the early 70s, the U.S. decided it was time to pull out, which is never as easy as it sounds. They signed some papers in Paris and said, not our problem anymore, to the whole clusterfuck. A few years later, the North Vietnamese army bust a fat nut all over Saigon, ending the war and making Vietnam a communist wet dream. The U.S. was left with blue balls and massive L on their forehead as they watched their worst nightmares come true. Communism had spread its sticky goo all over Vietnam. The aftermath was like the world's worst game of I told you so.
So, guys, that's a quick rundown of the Vietnam War. It was super messy and complicated, but we gotta learn from history, right? Let's just remember to be kind to each other and, like, not start wars and stuff. Love you guys.
Absolutely, Alinity. The Vietnam War was a festering shit stain on the underwear of history that can never be washed away. It killed and fucked millions. But hey, at least we got some kick-ass movies and songs out of it, right? So strap in, crank up the Creedence Clearwater Revival, and remember, war, huh? What is it good for? Absolutely fucking nothing.